So in this video, we'll be looking at adding our key interaction. So when we press E, the door's going to open. We press E, the door's going to close. So to make it more simple for myself, I'm going to start off with the one we've already created, because there's a couple of things in there we can use. So I'll right click and let's duplicate that. I'll just stick with the name BC2.02. Let's double click on this and go into it. Drag this down. So we are still going to use a branch. We're going to use this checking for if the door can be interacted with. We're still going to use our animation for this, so our timeline, and we're still going to use this set relative rotation. So we can get rid of these two events, and we can get rid of this second branch. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a custom event to trigger this off. I'm not going to use an event that we already have in the scene. We're going to call this from pressing the E key. So let's right click. Let's type in custom event. And we'll add a custom event. And then we just give this a name. So I'm going to call it something like interact. As an example, interact door. So we're going to plug this in. That's going to be our trigger now. Let's just move this. We're going to go through the same check. So we're going to check that this door can be interacted with. So we're checking this interact state that we're setting. And then we need a way of having this so when we press E the first time, if the door's open, it will close. And press it again, the door closes. So if something's open, it closes. If it's closed, it opens. So a really easy way to do this is with a node called flip-flop. So we just right click and just start typing in flip-flop, and let's plug this in, and this does exactly that. So if you think of this as a Boolean value, if it's a value of 1, it sets it to 0. It's a value of 0, it sets it to 1. Just sets the opposite state. So in this, our first one is going to come out, and that's going to play. So it's going to open the door. If it's open, it's going to close the door. And that's that. That's all we need to do in terms of creating that interaction. So we just have our custom event, which is going to trigger off and test the interact state to see if that's okay to use, if it can be interacted with. Going to have this flip-flop, which is going to say if it's open, it's closed. If it's closed, it's open. That's going to play the animation, and that's going to change the rotation of the door. Simple as that. So that we can just compile and save. And now we can actually look at creating our interaction. So the keyboard shortcut, we need to do that from the blueprint for the player. So I'm using a third person character here. If you had a first person, it would be the same thing. You just have a first person BP folder instead. So down in my content, I'm going to go to the third person BP folder, go into blueprints and double click on my character. And in the event graph, this is all the interaction we've got for the player control right now. Just going to go in an empty area here and start creating this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the keyboard interaction. So I'm just going to press right click and press E, and then we can just scroll up and we start going through all our player controllers. So we've got the Oculus, we've got the mouse, and then we start getting the keyboard shortcuts. So I'll just scroll to the top, and there we have E. So you're just going to scroll around and find that. There we go. So that's going to be our interaction. When we press E, it's going to trigger something off. The way this is going to work is it sends out what's called a trace. So a trace is a line that comes out from the player and intersects other objects in the scene to see what the player is looking at and can interact with, essentially. So if I come out of the pressed, start typing line trace, and we're going to do this line trace by channel. So you can see this does a collision trace along the given line and returns the first block in hit encountered. This trace finds the objects that respond to the given trace channel. Click on this. So for this, we need a start and an end point. So our start point is where the player is. Our end point is a line taken out from the player, where the player is facing, and a distance in front of the player, which we can work out through a little bit of maths. So our first one to do is our start. So I can drag out from the start pin, and we're going to get the actor location. So type in get actor lock, and we get that one there. So that is saying wherever our player is, this is where this trace is going to start from. Okay. So for our end one, we're going to find the controller, and we're going to find which way the controller is pointing. So that's my first one to do. So let's right click. Let's do a get control. We've actually got here get control rotation, which is based on the pawn, which is just a character. So from this, we need to find the direction it's facing. So if I just drag from this return value, and we're going to get forward vector. That's the direction that our character is going to be facing in. We then need to get a value in front of the player. So from where the player's facing out in front. So I'm going to add in a multiply node. So the easiest way to do this, in fact, I'm going to drag out a node. I just want to make sure I'm timesing by the right thing. So let's just type in multiply. And I want a vector times float or times integer. Let's do it times a float. There. So in this, I'm just going to type a value in here. We did it just in front of the player. So 600 to 800 maybe. We'll try this anyway. So let's try 800. So that's going to take this value and times it by this value to get in front. And then we need to make sure that this has come from our original location. So we're going to add an addition onto this. We're going to add 2 pins together. So I'll come on to this and add. And we need to do a vector plus vector. So we're going to take this vector here. We're going to take this vector here. Let's move these. And then this one is going to be our endpoint. Okay. So we're taking our original location and we're adding that to wherever the player is facing, which direction they're looking in, and a value in front of that. And that becomes the end value. So that's our line trace by channel. We can actually see this if we go into here and look at this draw debug type. We can set that, and I can just do this for duration. And if I just compile this and save it, and let's just go into this. Let's just see which one. Oh, let's just ignore that for a second. It's just another blueprint causing problems. Let's try that now. So you see, wherever that player is looking, that's the forward vector. Okay, so the direction it's facing, that's about 800 in front. And that's what the player is actually interacting with. So let's come out of that. Let's just go into our third person character, and now we'll tell it what we want to do with this. So from our line trace, we have the value for the object that it's hit, so the out hit value on this. So I'm going to drag out here. I'm going to break this. If I start typing break, we're going to break the hit result. What I want to be able to find is what this actually is hit. So if we just click that down, we've got this hit actor. So that's the important thing on this, just getting to that value there. So that's whatever we've hit, we're going to send a message to that particular thing. So let's drag from this. So to send a message to another object, we do a cast. So if we start typing cast to, and if I cast to the actual door that we're linking to, let's just do a BC, And then in this particular instance, this is cast to BC tutdo02. Obviously, you can have better names. I've got a couple of these, so just for the awkward name, but just look for the one that we're triggering off. So this is our script. This is the one that we're casting to. So I'm just going to pull this down. We need to actually click this so it triggers. So it sends the trace out. When it hits something, it says whatever that's hit, cast it to. And we're going to cast it to this door. And then from there, we can send it to this custom event, this interact door. So if I drag from this and start typing interact door, we see we've got this BC door 2, and this is our custom interaction. So obviously, if you've named yours something different here, then you need to make sure that you're looking for the right thing here. If I was just to compile this, we're going to get an error. And it's on this. We need to tell it what we're actually plugging into this target. And this is just the door. So essentially, again, it's looking at the right object name. So we've got this here on the cast as BC tutdo02. I just need to drag that across to there. And then compile and save. Okay. So again, we're pressing E. We're sending a trace out from the actor, from the player, from its direction it's facing, out in front. We're looking at what that trace hits, and from that we're cast into this particular object, and then we're telling it to trigger off the custom event that's called interact door. So let's try that. Let's go into our thing again. Let's go into our interaction. Let's drag this door on. And let's just rotate this round. I've got it facing the other way, but it really doesn't matter. Drag this in. Let's press play on this, and let's go in. Let's press E. Press E again. There we go. So E. Facing the door, press E again. We have that closed. Obviously, it's a bit awkward there. You've got to be facing the actual thing itself. Why is it suddenly not working? Something just with a trace. Let me just bring this a bit further forward. Just wonder if it's causing problems with the other door in front. So we may need to change that distance. It's actually going on there. So let's just go into my third person character. Let's just try a bigger value here. Compile and save. Press play again. Maybe it's because I'm not actually looking at it. There we go. So that's our interaction. That's all working, and you can play around with that value if you're having problems with it in terms of that. I'm going to just try setting it back to, let's say, 700. Compile and save. Fantastic. Again, I have this script on here. So, actually, I've got the hit area still on there as well. I don't need that. So let's just go and get rid of that. So in our viewport for this BC tutdo, get that hit area, and then we can right click and delete that. Don't need that at all. File and save that. But this is still going to do the same thing. That what I can do with this is I can click off the interact state if I want to. And then when we go in now on this door, try to trigger that off. It's not working. Okay. Click that back on. And click that on. And we could use that even for locked doors as well. If you want to lock a door and then open it up later on, we can actually use that variable to our advantage. So I'll leave that there, and then I'll do a third one just on another way of actually interacting with this door instead of just using the custom event